Hey, what's up? My name is Jakejames Lugo and welcome to my channel. So with all the Disney stuff that's been going on as of late, I kept thinking to myself, why don't we sit down and actually talk about a Disney related game? And as I kept thinking about this, I kept going back to Disney's Aladdin. No, not the live action remake we got not too long ago. Forget about that one for a second. I'm talking about the animated film from '92. And because there were so many games made about this particular animated film from Disney, I wanted to talk about one of them in particular that touched me and many other gamers out there and is considered a real classic. So let's just dive right into this and find out why Disney's Aladdin is so good or bad, and why some consider it to be a classic of the 16-bit era. Disney's Aladdin was a big animated movie released in 1992, which introduced us to a whole new world of Disney animation. And naturally, Disney went on to make video games based on the smash hit for multiple platforms, including the popular 16-bit consoles. Back then, it was common to see games of the same name play entirely different on various consoles, so you get a unique experience depending on where you played. The version we're looking at here is the one for the SEGA Genesis by Virgin Games, which was the better one for many gamers. We'll get into more of why later. Disney's Aladdin loosely follows the story of the animated film. I won't drag too much on it because I'm sure many of you already know what the deal is. A street rat known as Aladdin falls in love with the Princess Jasmine, who is the daughter of the Sultan of Agrabah. Unfortunately, the evil Jafar drags Aladdin into his diabolical plans to take over Agrabah and his search for a magical lamp, which could grant 3 wishes to anyone who wields it by a magical genie. Blah blah blah, you want the full story? Then watch the movie and you'll get it. Enough said. Anyway, the game doesn't follow the events of the movie exactly, but you do get many of the locations from it, such as the Agrabah streets, the Cave of Wonders, the Sultan's Palace, and much more. So does Aladdin really deliver as a great licensed movie game from Disney? Yeah, you better believe that it does. Now the cool thing about the Aladdin video game is that some of the same team that was working at Disney at the time that was also involved with the Aladdin movie also worked on this game, which is pretty awesome. They lent a lot of their expertise and a lot of their efforts and attention to detail to put a lot of quality into the animations, the backgrounds, pretty much a lot of little details about this game just to make it feel very authentic to the movie. Every time that I go through and play this, I notice little details again and again that just really give a sense of like, again, this feels awesome, you know, this is really authentically Aladdin or Disney's Aladdin. And it just, again, plays out really great on screen. Now, one cool thing that I'm pretty sure many of you didn't know was that there was a planned sequel to the Aladdin video game, which was going to blend elements of like pseudo 3D, but still play like a 2D type of game and follow different things, you know, about the film or maybe even after the film. Stuff like that sounded pretty cool, but unfortunately, the game was canceled. Now, my best guess is that this new game that was being developed that got canceled was probably going to borrow story elements from The Return of Jafar, which is a direct-to-VHS story or film that never really got a theatrical release. Again, it was something that was taking place after the events of the original Aladdin film. It would have been cool to see something like that come together and actually be able to play out the events of that particular film, especially for Aladdin fans that wanted to see the story continue, but we never got that game released and never got past like a certain stage, so I guess, you know, it is one of those funny what ifs if it actually happened. But regardless of all that being said, let's talk about the gameplay of Disney's Aladdin because there's a lot of stuff in here to unpack and a lot of reason why many consider this game to be a classic of the 16-bit era between the SEGA Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Aladdin plays like a basic platformer on the SEGA Genesis, but has a few things to spice up the experience and make it unique compared to other consoles. Moving around is fluid and feels pretty good on the controller. There will be that occasional jump or obstacle that's a little cheap, but the majority of the game is pretty straightforward and not too difficult. The biggest standout in the Genesis version of Aladdin is that you get to use a sword, allowing you to chop down enemies in your path. You can also throw apples at them as well, which is a great alternative for when you can't reach a baddie that's trying to hurt you. If I'm being honest, using the apples is the best option for almost any boss in the game, with the exception of a few here and there. Though it does seem a little silly to take down a giant snake with nothing but apples. Oh, I don't know, it's Disney, so I guess it's okay in my book. The shopkeeper from the film also makes an appearance here and sells you extra lives and continues with the gems that you collect in each stage. It's a cool nod to something from the movie that never really got a lot of screen time. Aladdin isn't a long game. There's about 9 stages in total, all of which are kinda short, so you could run through them all pretty fast. You could stretch things out by finding the Abu icons and doing the bonus stages where you control Abu. Though these could get pretty cheap, however, because once you get hit by anything, the bonus stage ends and you move on to the next level. Overall though, Aladdin has a pretty solid foundation for a platformer released at the time. It's crazy because this game went on to influence other Disney games based on popular movies that they released, all of which mimicked a lot of what this game had did so well. I cannot overstate just how good it feels with the controls in Disney's Aladdin on the SEGA Genesis. It just feels great to move around, feels great to attack enemies. Everything about it just feels great on the controller. It's a fairly easy game and there's not really a lot of complicated aspects to it. Maybe there's one level in the Agrabah streets where you actually have to collect flutes in order to get from place to place. But other than that, it never really gets complicated or too in-depth other than just get from point A to point B from the beginning of the stage to the end of the stage with all these different obstacles and enemies that block your path. If I have one little nitpick, however, that is a complaint about this game, is that I feel that the bonus stages are over way too fast, almost to the point that you don't even really get a chance to earn some of the bonuses you could get in between stages. This is definitely apparent in the Genie minigames after you collect all those Genie tokens that are scattered throughout each level. When you go to play the minigame and you're trying to get one of those bonuses based on the pictures that you click on, if you get a Jafar icon, the minigame is over and you lose all your tokens. It doesn't matter how many you actually collected. Personally, I would have rather had it that maybe you lose like 1 or 2 tokens that you gathered, and then maybe you get like an extra chance to try to earn something else like a bonus, but to flat out end the minigame completely and you lose all your tokens, it just feels like they're over way too soon. I could also say the same thing about the Abu stages, but again, those seem like they're a little bit more easier and you have a little bit more of a chance to earn some of those bonuses. However, just getting hit once and you're completely over and you have to move on to the next stage. So before you know it, it could be over before you even start. The other thing I do want to comment on is the bosses. I feel like the bosses are very, very easy, especially the final boss against Jafar and the giant snake. I'm pretty sure that if you never played this game before, you were probably expecting a really epic fight against the giant snake or Jafar, but they could be over rather quickly, just throwing a bunch of apples at Jafar, not even using your sword, and the fight is pretty much over. It looks a little bit more intimidating than what it actually is, you know, just on first glance of it, you're like, oh, this is gonna be crazy, but once you get into the fight, it's just pretty much mediocre. It's kind of like a pushover. Most of the other boss fights in the game, there are very few of them throughout, aren't really that hard either. Again, you just either throw apples at them to kind of get rid of them, maybe a few times you use your sword, but they're pretty much pushovers compared to what you might actually expect. Now let's talk about something that people have a lot of different opinions about with this game, and that's the music. So the music in Aladdin is pretty great. You get most of the music that's straight from the movie, rendered in 16-bit of course. And real talk, they sound fantastic. But things are made a little better with the inclusion of a few original tracks in some levels. These were done by music composers Donald Griffin and Tommy Talrico. Yeah, Tommy from Judgment Day and Video Games Live. My man! Anyway, the music in the desert stage is my absolute favorite, mostly because it sounds so upbeat and really fun. It's called Desert Jazz and wasn't based on any track from the movie, but it's so good to listen to while you're playing. Check it out here and tell me if you like it in the comments section. I'm pretty sure you're going to dig it as much as I did. Not gonna lie, the music in this game just sounds absolutely fantastic. It's just great 16-bit rendered music. Even the tracks that aren't pulled directly from the film, the original tracks that you get in here besides the one that I mentioned, just sound really good. The Cave of Wonders track is another one, but I know a lot of people really kind of gravitate towards more of the actual film music tracks that are, again, are rendered in 16-bit. Some people would say, you know, the Genie song, you know, Friend Like Me is pretty good, which it is. Prince Ali, you know, the Agrabah streets, you know, all this different stuff just sounds really good. And it just, again, it complements everything that you're doing on screen. It's fun, it's fast-paced, it's a little bit more upbeat, even when it's kind of slow and more minute. It's just fun music to listen to. This is great Genesis or 16-bit music that goes well with this game. So can I recommend that you check out Disney's Aladdin for the SEGA Genesis? Oh yeah, this game is still fantastic even after all these years. The version of the game that I played for this review was actually part of the Disney Classic Games collection that you could get now on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One as well, and it comes with the Lion King 16-bit game, which I'll probably get to another day, but that version of the game for Disney's Aladdin includes multiple versions that you could actually play around with, including a final mix or final cut version that fixes a couple little things here and there that makes it more of like a definitive version of this game. If you love Disney, if you love the Aladdin movie, or if you just love fun 16-bit or retro style games, you can't go wrong with Disney's Aladdin. It's well designed, it sounds great, it looks great, it is absolutely fun and a joy to play right now. Anyway guys, those are my thoughts on Disney's Aladdin for the Sega Genesis. I know some people would have probably wanted me to talk about also the Capcom version for the Super Nintendo, but I wanted to talk about the Genesis version because that was the one I played back then, and it's the one that I know a lot of people consider to be the best out of all the Disney Aladdin games that were released at the time. It was just a fun game to me, and now that we could actually play it again in the Disney's Classic Games collection, I feel like now is the right time to talk about it. But those are just my thoughts about Disney's Aladdin on Genesis. Let me know what you guys think about it down below in the comments section. Tell me, did you enjoy Disney's Aladdin? Do you like the movie? Do you like any of the other versions of Aladdin that were released? What are some of your favorite Disney movies and Disney related games that were released at the time or even up to this point now? Put all that stuff down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching this video, everyone. Make sure you guys check out some of these other videos in the boxes after the credits, and don't forget to visit my Patreon page via the annotations for more exclusive content. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.